absolute value inequalities. All right, so remember, kind of circling back, absolute value. Let's see, sorry, I'm deciding on a color. Remember that absolute value defines distance. Remember that when we learned absolute value, I said this is the huge takeaway for absolute value. This is what I want you to remember. That absolute value measures or defines distance. So can distance ever be negative? No. So the least away we can be from anything is 0. So that still comes into play. Absolute value cannot equal anything less than 0. But now that we have inequalities, we're kind of playing around with the idea of absolute value's relationship to a negative. So at the bottom of the page, you'll see here we've got an absolute value is less than -4, or an absolute value is greater than or equal to a -4. Well, so we're going to talk about its relationship to negative. But remember, typically speaking, absolute values are positive because they are defining distance. And recall that I want you to think of like a negative or a positive value, whether it's if it's coming from the left or it's on the left, or if it's positive, think of it like on the right. So it's not necessarily that you're saying you're a negative, like you don't have -$5 in your bank account. Think of it as just like, oh, your bank's on the left. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's talk about the meaning of absolute values and inequalities. So what's the meaning of the absolute value of x being less than 5? Well, remember, we're measuring distance. So what this says is that x is less than 5 units away from 0. Or our number is less than 5 units away from 0. I like to think of it as like you're meeting up with your friend for lunch or coffee, who knows, or maybe you're meeting up with someone at the library to study. And you're texting and you're like, oh, your friend's there. Like, hey, where are you? And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I got caught up. I'm less than 5 minutes away. So that means that you can be, if here's 5 and here's 0, that means you can be here, right, like at 2 minutes away. That means you could be popping out of the elevator less than 1 minute away. But no matter what, are you still less than 5 units away? Yeah. But don't forget, maybe you're coming from your friend in the right-hand direction. Maybe you're coming from the left-hand direction. You're not sure. But in both cases, it doesn't matter because you're less than 5 minutes away. Hopefully that makes sense, right? You're less than 5 minutes away. You're less than 5 units away from 0. So on the flip side of that, what if I have that the absolute value of x is greater than 2? Yeah, basically it's the same thing what I have here in orange, except you change less than to greater and 5 to 2. So x is, look at me, greater than 2 units away from 0. So again, here I like to think of it as like your friend's calling you, you're meeting up at the library to study, and or maybe I like the restaurant version, right? So your friend's waiting for you at Cafe on the Square, okay, in San Marcos. And they're like, hey, I'm here, where are you? I'm hungry, so hurry your booty up. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I got stuck by a train. It's gonna be a while, like over 2 minutes, order an appetizer, I'll be there as soon as I can, get started without me. Right, so, or if you're like my friends, or my husband, he's the worst at this. He's like, yeah, I'm almost there, I'm in the car, I'm on my way. And he's like just getting out of the shower. Yeah, he's bad about that, but anyways. So here, 0, here's 2, here's -2, because remember, don't think about negative as in minus time, but think of it like 2 units away. So if I'm greater than, that means like the train may be just released and you are now parking, or you have to wait for someone to pull out a parking spot so you can get that spot. And so to your friend, you're like, hey, I'm a little bit more than 2 minutes. Or you could say, like, you could tell your friend, like, oh, I'm in the bathtub, right? Like, it's going to be a while. Sorry, I forgot. Then it still fits, right? Still greater than 2 units away. So that's the idea. But what I want you to take away is that one of them is the and one of them is the or. Right? So what do you think this one is? The less than. Is that the and or the or? What do you think? Yeah, this one's the and. Oops, excuse me. A-D-N. A-N-D. My hand and brain don't want to connect. So if this one is the and, what is this one? This one is the or. Good. We've got intersection. And then here we've got the union. Cool. So I'm the worst at remembering greater than, less than is which one's which. So what I do is I literally derive it every single time. It only takes but like 10 seconds, not that much time. For me, I like to derive it because honestly, it's just one less thing I gotta memorize. I don't know about you, but sometimes we've all got so many things to memorize already. Why must we add to the list consistently? So here's what I do. X, the absolute value of X is less than K. Remember, what do we do to drop the bars? We take the negative and positive of the outside value. The next important thing is that wherever the alligator is facing, it needs to keep facing that same way. So if I've got the less than sign, you need 2 less than signs. And then the X stays in the middle. This is also why I like the negative to stay on the left, because remember with inequality signs, now it really plays an important part. So I'm going to slap down -K and K onto my number line and evaluate the simple inequalities separately. So -K is less than X, or X is greater than -K. So open circle and shade to the right. Then X is less than +K. So at +K, open circle and shade to the left. So now very clear to me, this is the and. This is where we want overlap. It's the intersection. So now for the greater than, same thing, right? To drop the bars, I need negative and positive K, X in the middle. Greater than, just copy, or copy, paste, right? The alligator needs to face the same way both times. Draw your number line. Notate your negative K and K. Remember, it has to be numerical order because it is the number line. So we've got independently, negative K is greater than X, or X is less than negative K. So open circle at negative K and shade to the left. And for the next simple inequality, I've got that X is greater than K. So open circle at K and shade to the right. And now I can visually see the reinforcement. Oh, okay, the greater than represents the or. All right, so now I'm going to start a new video for the examples so that I don't melt your brain.